Hi, glad to be back here. It's been a while. I hope you all are doing well. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. Today we have a guest.
Hi.
Yeah, she's so excited about it. She won't even wait for me to introduce her. But this is Vivian. She's my
Glad to be here.
She's my cousin, and I will let her introduce herself.
Hey, my name is Vivian Tananga and I'm Phyllis's cousin. Glad to be here today.
What do you do, Vivian?
I read books, I knit, I cook. All that.
That's interesting. How old are you?
I'm 13 years old.
Which class?
I'm in my vacation of primary 7.
Whoa, interesting. So yeah, that's Vivian. Yeah, she's young. I think she's our youngest guest so far. So as you might see the setup right here, or I mean like the room is full of books. So today we are going to be talking about books. Particularly, Vivian will be sharing with us her story when she started reading, like just the gist of reading and like how it impacts your life. And we hope you can have fun as we also have fun. So let's get started. Vivian, do you want to start? Do you want to start? When did you start reading? Like, at what age did you start reading?
I started reading when I was 12 years last year, I think in May. Yeah.
In May. That sounds like the first lockdown, was it?
Yes.
So, actually, a lot of people started doing a lot of things in the lockdown. I know friends who started cooking, who did some courses. And for Vivian right here, she says she started reading. How was the journey like when you started?
It wasn't that well. It was boring sometimes. The first book I read wasn't okay. It was interesting, but to me, I wasn't much interested. So I used to like read and I used to get bored and stop, sometimes even doze. Because I used to say, Manang, I used to ask Phyllis, how do you make it reading like all those books, all those chapters in a day? And she tells you that if a book is interesting, you can finish it before it's too late. So for me, I wasn't that interested, and then they introduced me to reading, and I also started reading, and I got used to it, and I used to love reading the books which were interesting.
So for most people, actually, the first time you start reading, it can be hard because, like, reading is a habit that is not like fun as you would go out to dance or drink with friends. Reading is more of like an individual thing. I think for me, I first started reading, I think it must have been like in high school around Form 6. But my reasons were different from Vivian, of course. So totally different. My reasons are mainly to just, get something fun to do. And that's how I started reading. But sometimes, I see young children who read, and I wish I had, started early, because there's this thing that keeps going around that a child who reads is that like will be an adult who thinks. And I see it a lot. Most of the people that I've met who used to read when they were young, they think, like they use their mind, and they are able to articulate something they feel inside and share it with someone. So for me, it was really interesting to watch Vivian start with her first book and see her struggle through it. Like, she would ask me, how do you read all those books? Like, how are you able to move from, that fast? And I'm like, it's a habit, you build it and it gets better with time. But sometimes you read a book that is boring, and like the current book I'm reading, it's not boring, but it's like hard, eh? There's so much content, so I keep reading like 1 page, 2 pages. Now you imagine for someone who just started, it can be hard, right? So Vivian, how did you overcome those times when you would like, it would be hard for you to read or finish a book? How did you keep like persistent and check? We are here talking about books. I'm sure something happened for you to to keep, reading.
What kept me reading that I used to get interesting books. Now, what if Phyllis was giving me books which weren't interesting? There, I would have given up. But the books she was giving me, they were interesting, they were fun. So I got used, and I wanted to read more. Yeah.
Yeah. So and now, how did you get over the sleeping? Do you like get a particular time you read, like before you sleep, or do you read during day? Like what's the best time for you for a good read? Like what's the best time? Is it during the afternoons, the mornings, or at night?
In the afternoons.
In the afternoon, when you're done with your chores and everything.
Yes.
Interesting. So you keep talking about these interesting books, and I'm wondering, like, how many books have you read so far? And then the next thing is, like, what are some of the best reads among those books you've read so far?
I've read like 13 books, 14.
Whoa.
Around there.
Congratulations, girl.
Thank you.
I know there could be people who don't even read a single book in a year. So, congs to you, girl.
Thank you.
Congs. So, 13 books. We are talking about 13 books, guys. 13 books. Oh, I didn't read 13 books until like, I was what? Like 20 something. And here you are, 13, and you've read 13 books. Kudos on that. So tell me about your favorite books. Like, what are those books that stand out? Yeah.
This one, The Girl Who Drank the Moon.
Tell us about this.
This book, what I learned from it, it's so interesting. It teaches you how to be brave, to be what you are, to believe in yourself, and to love others. Because if this girl in this book didn't like her grandma, who was a witch, she wouldn't have found her mom. But because of that love, she found her mom, and she met new people, and she lived with her mother.
Happily.
Yes.
I actually loved this book when I read it as well. It's quite an interesting book, and for children, I would really recommend, if you have any children or you're a child yourself watching this, I would recommend this book, The Girl Who Drank the Moon. You said it's by who?
Kelly Banhill.
Kelly Banhill. So this book, it's really like, if you like fairy tales, if you like magic, yeah, you will enjoy this. The Girl Who Drank the Moon. I enjoyed it myself, but it's I think it's written for like young readers, but even an adult would really enjoy it, because it takes you out of the real world and into like a fantasy world, but also a world with a lot of lessons that are so realistic. So I'm glad you liked it. I actually, for this particular book, I begged for her to read it. Like, I kept reminding her, you need to read this book. You will love it. You need to read it. And even Sabrina would tell her, you need to read that book. It's very nice. And I'm glad she finally read it. And it's one of her best books. So, yeah. Any other books that stood out for you?
This. The Girl Who Smiled Beads.
Interesting. Yeah, it's by who?
Clementine Wamaria.
Maria. Nice. That sounds like an African name. Which country is she from?
Rwanda.
She's from Rwanda. Okay. Well, what is the book about? Is it a fantasy? Is it a real life story? Is it?
Yeah, it's a real life story and a sorrowful story.
Oh, so dear.
Like they pass through pain, sorrow, like negligation. They pass through many difficult things. But it teaches you to be brave, to be consistent with what you have.
Content, I think, is the word. Yes, contented, yeah.
With what you have, to appreciate whatever is given to you, and not like to feel bad because you don't live with your parents because of the war, but to pray.
So Vivian talked about something, I think, content. One thing that this book taught me is to not take life for granted, to not take everything I have in my life for granted. Because like at one point, Clementine and her siblings and her family were like living the best life ever. You know, they have maids. Their father buys them.
A rich family.
Yeah, a rich family. You said their father used to get them chocolate. What was it?
Sweets.
Yeah, sweets. So like they had everything that, you know, was good. And then all of a sudden, one tribe started killing the other, and just overnight, the house they had was no more. They had to go to their grannies, and like when the soldiers came, their granny told them, run, run, run. These girls like went in how many countries?
8 countries.
8 countries. You can
in
imagine.
6 years.
In 6 years, 8 countries. Like you don't have anywhere you belong. Every time you're here, like taking it for granted that you're a citizen of a certain country. These were young girls who didn't have anywhere they could call home. Yeah. But one thing that she mentioned, the content, you know, being content, is something that, you know, like stood with them the whole time. You know, all those times when they were in refugee camps, when they were like, when she was adopted, like all those times they would still be content with the little they have. And that was a big lesson for me. But also I really loved like the way the sister is so selfless and wants to give the best to her young sister. What did you think about that?
I imagined it being me, helping my sister, struggling for her, because her big sister used to go work, and the younger one used to remain home with the sibling sister.
With the sister's kid, right?
Yeah. Yes. And then they used to stay there. She bathes the kids and they wait for the sister to come back. They are not supposed to move to other places like to ask for anything, because
even though they don't have at home. That's the content, you know. If it was you, would you have done that for your sister? To be honest, Vivian, there's no lying here.
Yes, because I'm like their parent, because the parents, they weren't with them. A war happened, so I should act as the parent. I have to do everything for my little ones.
For your siblings.
My little siblings.
That's, by the way, having a selfless heart. I think for me, the moment that stood out for me was when they met with Oprah. Like they were taken on the Oprah show, and they reunited with their mother and father and the siblings who were still alive.
And that they couldn't believe it.
Oh my God! Like it was so emotional. I first put the book down. I cried a bit because Like for you, what did you feel when you saw that part? Like, okay, when you read that part, like sometimes when you're reading these books, it's like you're watching a movie. Like you
You
can
can
really
even
see,
imagine it in your
yes,
head.
like you're there with them and they're doing all these things they're saying while you're there on the seat watching them.
For me, I felt so happy for them, and I imagined them giving big hugs to their parents
And crying.
Yes.
Oh my god. It was very emotional. Like that's actually the thing people say about there's always light at the end of the tunnel. Because these girls had like given up.
They couldn't imagine getting their parents back.
Right? Even though they had lost a brother, a sister, like one of their younger siblings had died. But they were so grateful that the others were still alive. But war, people talk about war, but war is another thing. Because 1 minute you have all this big family, and the next minute you're just alone. If you're lucky enough, you have someone like the way she had her sister. So usually you don't even have hope of meeting these people again. Probably you think they died a long time ago, or like
they forgot you.
Yeah, or they forgot you. Just eventually make peace with it. But then like meeting them, oh my god. I feel like I'm rereading the book right now. I highly recommend for people who have heard about the Rwanda genocide. You should check the book out if you like reading, but also recommend for the young ones because I think it really has some, like Vivian mentioned, some really good values that it can impart in someone. Any other book?
Girls Who Code.
Girls Who Code.
Sam.
Girls Who Code. Tell me, I see like there are 4 friends. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
There are 4 friends, Tell me about this.
It teaches you about friendship, about how you should associate with your friends, how to behave with your friends, how to live with your friends, how to treat your friends.
But while coding, tell me about the coding. That's what I'm interested in. So these friends like meet at home and like code?
No.
I thought it's about like computer things and all.
It has the second part.
The second part has computer coding and everything.
Yes.
That's interesting. So check it out. We actually have a few free copies. If you're interested, you can leave a comment and we can see how to get you a copy, right, Vivian? We have like a few copies that we can share with you. Yeah. Any other
This series? Wings is the first one, followed by Spells, followed by Wild.
But are there 4 or there are 3? Yeah.
By Apriline Pike.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell me. What did you love about these books?
About the bravery this girl had who grew wings, who was half a human and half like
a plant.
Yeah, a plant. What I loved about her, she was brave. She never hated herself because she grew wings, because she never felt bad that people would ignore her, her parents and everyone. But she remained what she was, and she was so glad to be what she was.
I like the story myself. For me, I first found this. There was some bookstore there. They sell like used books. I got it and I loved the story, but this is like the 3rd book, so I was dying to get the 1st and the 2nd, and later, like 2 years after, I got these ones. I really loved, like she said, like she was brave, because I mean, like one day you think you're human and the next minute you have a flower growing in your back. Like,
How would you feel?
how would you feel, right? If it was you, what would you do even? You would scream.
Yeah.
I know, like, 1 minute she was like a real human thinking, like, and then the next, like, she had all these things she's supposed to take water all the time. But for her, she didn't mind because she thought like she had like a healthy issue. And then 1 minute she's growing a flower and she has to hide it from people because she has so many questions, but she also feels like it's not safe to like tell everyone. But I like the science in it, how they test, and then eventually with her friend, how they test, they do chemistry things, mix chemicals with that flower.
Biology.
Yes, and then they are able to realize that she's
plant.
like the biggest percentage of her is a plant. And then like how they become like a pack and start fighting, and this bad guy who was
Fighting the troll.
Yeah, the troll who was trying to like kill all the
Who wanted
fairies.
to go to the gate of the fairies and kill them.
She was actually a fairy. Maybe we forgot to mention that she was a fairy, and she really like, I like her personality, how she would handle everything calmly, but also she like really cared for her friends. Like if anything happens, like she wants her friends to be fine. So like you would find even the troll would first attack the friends because he knows
that she would go
there. Yeah, like she would do anything for her friends, and that's
they were
really
her best friends.
Yes, and that's what life is about. Like you
looking after each other.
the people you care about and all. What did you think about like the dad started a bookstore? Was it a bookstore? What was it?
He had a bookstore, and it had chemicals, sort of things which you can mix. Things of chemistry you can mix and make a potion, and those things the father used to sell. The girl, they had it in their what?
Fairy world, yeah.
So she could take them and use them to kill the other guy,
the troll. Yeah, it's really a very interesting series. I really liked the way it takes you into an unimaginable world, because who would imagine a human? I know, who would imagine, like, what if we had humans that were like, we had people staying with us that are half human, half plants. Like, imagine that. How cool would that be? How cool, guys. How cool.
When you're one of them.
When you're one of them, right? Or like it's your best friend and then you find out their secret and so yeah, that's I think that's mostly it from Vivian. But Vivian, before we go, I want you to share with us, like, what has been your biggest lesson? Like what have you benefited while reading? Like, what do you think has been added to your life, the fact that you read?
What has been added to my life?
Yeah.
I've learned to be brave. I've learned to care about my friends, love one another, sharing, confidence.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Right? You're actually doing great for a first timer. I think you're doing really amazing. Give me 5. Yeah, so that's Vivian, guys. We are glad. We're always glad to share any book recommendations. But I really like encourage you as an adult. It's never too late to start reading, even though you're reading like an article. You're reading like one book a year. It's something, yeah. But for the young ones, it's even easy to start them early, because look at Vivian here. By May last year, she was struggling, and here, Actually, she read this series in how long? In a month, was it?
Well, a month and a half.
A month and a
Yes,
half.
three.
You can imagine, for someone who was struggling like 6 months before, was able to read, and you see how big they are. She was able to read it, so
Because they were interesting.
yes, they were. So as like, if you're an uncle, if you're an aunt, if you're like a mother, I don't know, whatever you are, if you have kids around you, it would be nice, to introduce them. You never know. Sometimes they pick it up, sometimes they don't, but it doesn't kill to try, right? So yeah, we are excited. We are happy to share with you some of my favorite reads right there. But yeah, Vivian, thanks for joining us. Any last words? Any message to the young people, to the parents?
A message to the young readers and those who haven't started reading. I advise you all to introduce your kids to reading so that they like learn that thing of reading to make their English better, to like not be bored all the time, not to
Overwatch TV.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like
so
that.
and for the kids, that sounded like a message for the parents. How about for the kids? If it's, what message would you give to someone who is still struggling, like they don't find it easy to read?
I would advise them, like, if they like feel they want to sleep while reading a boring book, take a cup of tea and pick up.
I know.
Yeah.
Like, pick up from there the next day, right?
Yeah.
But consistency is key, right? You have to be persistent. If the book is boring, drop it. Pick one that is interesting, right? So yeah, thank you guys for joining. Don't forget to subscribe,
Like and share
with your friends
and family.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Vivian, for joining us.